we'll take a bit of a look just in terms of a typical day in the life of a contractor or an architect, and the types of workflows which you'll typically go through when using these types of systems. Again, there's very much an onus on us from a software perspective to make that process as easy as possible for the end user. So again, once we sort of get into the software demonstration, hopefully you'll start to get an understanding and an appreciation of how we can start to soften the blow of adopting a bit more of a disciplined way of working within the built environment. So task management and reporting will also sort of touch on again, and again, this is kind of alluding to the fact that these systems aren't there to be kind of glorified network file shares or glorified drop boxes. If we want to really kind of drive efficiencies and benefits across a whole number of projects, then we really need to start adopting these kind of workflows and principles within the CDE or EDMS. So without further ado, I'll log into one of our demonstration systems just to give you a little bit of an insight in terms of number one, the look and feel of BC, and also sort of take you through a little bit of an example of what a BIM project would look like within these types of systems. So as Stuart's alluded to, accessibility is one of sort of the key challenges that we speak to lots of kind of prospective clients in the early stage of an engagement, and again, lots of them are coming from that world of network file shares and not being able to access information when you're outside of the office. It might be firewalls restricting you, it might be on-premise deployments which have got sort of security wrapped around them. So for a start, BC is entirely web-based. So again, it's one of the sort of key things that we offer to all of our clients is a private cloud or private instance, which again is a little bit of a differentiator from our perspective, but it gives all of our customers a lot more ownership and control in terms of how they can manage things like configuration, customization, even things like upgrades, for example, are very much under the client's control. So if I just give you a brief introduction to the system itself. So this is a fairly typical project view, and you can immediately see we've got some project dashboard capability, you've got some project information, access to my recent documents, and some project media. So underpinning that, we've got our effectively kind of project templates, which is pretty much aligned to the industry standards. And again, if we start speaking to a customer today, this is the type of configuration and setup which they'll take on if they choose to kind of run their projects aligned to the BIM process. So I'll take you through sort of the underlying structure very shortly. But again, if I'm putting my architect's hat on, for example, so we're logged in as a supply user in this case, so I can very quickly dive into my dashboard just to get a very quick overview in terms of sort of activity on the project and sort of KPIs running through this project as well. So again, we try to make it as concise and as interactive as possible. So just very briefly, I've got a dashboard which alerts me to things which I've got to do from a personal perspective, and it breaks it down into what you've got to do today, this week, this month, and things which are overdue. So you already noticed I've got a couple of things overdue, which is not good, but equally I've got early visibility of that, so I can manage those tasks very, very easily. I can see what my company have got responsible or from a task management and what they're responsible for delivering, as well as sort of the all issues, which covers the whole project, and also I can also keep track of things which I'm sending out to other people to action. So it might be I've uploaded a pack of drawings, I want to get them reviewed, approved, or signed off. I push them through a workflow, and I can also track as and when those responses come back in. So if I just sort of dive down, you can also see how it starts to unwrap the different types of workflows that we've got going on in the system. And again, these are all very much interactive dashboards which I can drill into to find the relevant bits of information which I'm particularly interested in. So a fairly typical example is picking up on things which I've sent out which are overdue. So if I'm an architect, for example, and I've sent things out the door which need to get signed off or approved, I can very quickly drill into exactly where they are in the workflow, and I can see it's gone to the contractor here, and they haven't actioned that. So very simply, I can hit the remind button just to give them an email notification prompting them to action that particular workflow. If I dive back up into sort of the top level of the project, so again, just giving a bit of an explanation of the structure that we've got going on here. So just put it into context, I guess. I think, again, when we speak to lots of prospective clients, as I mentioned, they're coming from a world of sort of yellow folders and kind of network file shares, and it probably won't look too dissimilar to what we're seeing on the screen here. And again, I think as an industry, we're all quite comfortable with using folders, but there are absolutely challenges when it comes to working in a CDE or within an information management or a collaborative environment. So again, as Stuart alluded to, my idea of a folder structure might be completely different to everyone else's on the project, and this is really about keeping in mind that this is a collaboration system, and we need to make things very, very clear and unambiguous in terms of what certain documents are categorized as, for example. So when it comes to implementation from that perspective, we do have a number of project templates that we can offer. So there are on occasions cases for managing or adopting a folder structure, but what we tend to encourage is a collection and metadata driven approach. So just to qualify that metadata, hopefully those on the call will have an appreciation for it, but it's very much aligned to kind of search tags when you're uploading information. So for example, we often use the analogy of sort of iTunes. So if I'm looking for a particular genre of music, it's been uploaded in the last month. Those kind of search tags are all pieces of metadata which are going to enable me to find the particular song that I'm looking for. And the same principle applies to the world of common data environments and information management systems, because ultimately this is all about making things easy to search and retrieve. In 2, 3, 4 years' time, when we need to sort of drill down and cut and slice through the information. So just to give you some background to the structure. So those of you who are familiar with the sort of the past 1192 documents and now the sort of ISO 19650 documents will be quite familiar with the principles of information starting their life off in WIP, going through sort of gateway approvals into a shared state before they get published, and then ultimately into the archive areas of the system. But from our perspective, as it kind of alludes to on the screen, product information, pretty much all of your documents, drawings, model files get uploaded into a single location, with the exception of emails, which we strip out. But just to keep things nice and simple, it's effectively a big bucket that we're adopting here. And the first thing you'll probably notice on the screen once you dive into this particular collection, and again, when projects get up and running, and we work on some very high profile, very complex projects, there could be thousands, if not tens of thousands, documents sitting within a particular collection. So you need some intelligence around not only how you're uploading and tagging those documents, but also the file naming convention that you're adopting. Now, obviously, the good thing is that from an industry perspective, we've got those standards which give us some guidelines around how we should be naming our files. And again, we've taken that principle and mapped it into BC. So this is very much part of our out-of-the-box template, which comes as part of our BC projects and BC Enterprise license editions. So again, we've taken our 20 years of experience and kind of mapped those kind of configurations into the system. And again, we're seeing a lot of a large trend in the market to sort of project teams wanting to get up and running within a matter of weeks and not wanting to spend sort of months in terms of getting these systems up and running, which is where we've sort of come to land in terms of our license editions that we can offer that out of the box. So if I just kind of run you through sort of the example that we're seeing on the screen here. So again, we're sort of in a collection with a number of documents, and these are all been tagged with the various kind of metadata or attributes. So what we do here, we just put on our architect's hats for a couple of minutes, and I might have a couple of drawings which are ready to get published onto the system. But before that, in terms of adhering to the file naming conventions, we do have a function within BC called Placeholders. So this is really about sort of helping sort of project teams adopt those disciplines of file naming conventions, because again, we appreciate that sort of subcontractors and tier 2 suppliers might not necessarily have the discipline or have the knowledge at this stage of the game to adhere to these adhere to these file name conventions. So we can take a lot of the burden off the end user through this placeholder functionality. And again, it's a really simple tool to effectively kind of reserve areas in the projects which are effectively waiting for documents to get populated into the collection. So if I want to upload a couple of drawings, for example, very simply select the document type, and we've already got the sort of the naming convention plumbed into the project template. So we're logged in this as a supplier, so I want to upload or reserve a couple of placeholders, which are all kind of relating to, let's say, their second floor plan drawings. So let's very quickly run those through, give it a description, and very quickly we're got the ability to reserve any number of placeholders within the projects. But you can see the example here that it's automatically spat out that the file name convention aligns to the project's protocols. So I can say I'm just going to reserve 3 placeholders, which are sort of second floor plan drawings, and you can see that it's automatically generated that for me. So again, we're taking a lot of the burden off the end user from a file naming convention, because again, we recognise and appreciate as an industry that is one of the foundations of adopting BIM, but it is a massive challenge and a cultural challenge for lots of people to adopt these more disciplined ways of working. So for lots of people on the call, they might have been working in a world where I could upload something onto a shared system and call it Chris's drawing, but that's not going to give anyone else on the project much of an idea in terms of what that drawing relates to. So I can download that to a CSV, and that effectively kind of gives you the option or gives you something looking a little bit like this. So again, it's very much kind of spoon feeding the end user to upload and publish those documents into the system. But I'm just going to hit OK, and you can see that it's created kind of 3 empty shells waiting for those second floor drawings to get uploaded into the system. So in terms of bulk uploading, again, that's something which has been within the software for a good number of years. But again, there's absolutely some intelligence which we can build into here. So I've got a couple of drawings which I now want to upload or bulk upload into the system. This could, whilst we're doing 2 here, this could be 10, it could be 20, it could be 30. So we're dragging and drop them off my laptop here and onto BC. Now, BC is recognizing that there's a couple of placeholders waiting for these documents to go into here. So again, sort of give me a quick prompt. So I'm just going to say, yes, okay, I want to upload those into the system. So again, we're very much looking at sort of this auto tagging principles within BC. So again, because it's a DWG, what BC is doing is reading that file name and automatically populating a lot of the metadata for me. So as an architect, I'll be pretty happy with the fact that I don't have to spend 10 minutes tagging these documents with bits of information. So again, if I scoot along to the right-hand side, you'll very quickly see that, again, because BC is reading that file name for me, it's automatically applying those metadata values on my behalf. So again, it's a subtle thing within the software, but it does get a lot of, we do get a lot of good feedback on that from an upload perspective. So in terms of the principles of working in this kind of common data environment side of things, what we tend to do is effectively the originator of the information suggests what the documents or the drawings are suitable for. So in this case, we've said it's suitable for review and comment, or S3. And it's not until it's gone through a formal workflow process that it gets rubber stamped in the system as an S3 code. So again, we've got this kind of principle of quality management within the system. So again, sort of taking a step up from the likes of Dropbox and network file shares. This is all about getting documents and drawings and model files through the right kind of gateway approval processes, so that we're confident at the end of the project, you know, that we've captured good quality information. It's gone through the right types of reviews and approvals and such like. So at this point, I can select a couple of one or many documents from the listing, for example. Now I could have hit save an issue to initiate that workflow process straight away, but what we'll do, we'll just select one of these files, very simply hit the workflow button, and we'll add it to a shared workflow. So again, taking the principles of sort of the ISO 19650 and sort of the predecessor 1192 documents, we've taken this kind of concept of check, review, and approve transmittal and got those kind of plumbed into the background from a configuration perspective. Now, one of the other sort of key points that we like to kind of refer to is the fact that we've got this concept of again, sort of automating the recipients on these types of workflows. So you can see it's going automatically to the contractor and the customer user. But I can take out the customer, for example. But the other piece to this puzzle is the fact that we're also able to pre-configure or predefine things like due dates or when you need responses back by. So we speak to lots of main contractors, for example, who've got sort of contractual obligations around from their supply chain perspective, responses within 10 working days. So again, it's just a case of us understanding those types of kind of rules and regulations that you want to get set up, and we can start to automate a lot of that into the background configuration. So the deadline or the due date's already plugged in. You can see over on the left-hand side, I've got access to distribution groups. So again, we can group together a number of users. So again, a fairly typical example that we see is design review teams, and again that might be made up of different disciplines. So again, we can effectively bundle those individual people together and push those out on a workflow to multiple people very, very simply. So I'm going to hit OK. Again, I can send it to send it for other purposes to other people. In terms of the checking, reviewing, and approving process, I can see the document or the drawing that I'm pushing through the particular workflow. I'm just going to confirm the suitability. I'm going to say, please approve. So it's not too dissimilar to sending an email or filling in an online form, that workflow process. So again, just sort of coming back to the ease of use, it's a really sort of key part of adoption from any software platform that you're introducing. And again, what we don't want to get is resistance from the masses because a system's too complicated or it doesn't look familiar to what they might have been doing historically. So again, it's a subtle thing to consider, but it's something which we've got a lot of good feedback from. So just putting my contractor hat on for a second. So the architect has issued or sent that particular drawing file to the contractor for approval. So again, this is just one of our demo systems. So I'm going to log in as the contractor. So the contractor user will actually get an email notification saying that Chris, the architect, has issued you a drawing and need to provide or approve it by within 10 working days. So I could, through my email notification, I can drill back into the system to provide my response. Alternatively, as a contractor, I might already be logged in, and I can see I can use my dashboard to drill into that particular workflow that I need to address. So this is the one which we've just sent. So very, very simply, I come into my summary issue sheet. And again, we see lots of people in the industry struggling with these types of things, trying to keep logs and Excel trackers to try and manage or keep a log of which documents have gone to who, have we had responses back by, and do we need to sort of pick up the phone and start chasing people. So all of that pain, all of that manual process, all of that kind of inefficiency is taken out of that kind of workflow, and it's all logged into an online collaborative system. So I can review sort of the summary pages. I can toggle to the details tab just so you see a bit more of the sort of underlying information, or the salient details are down at the bottom here. So very simply, from the contractor's perspective, I just need to hit the respond button, at which point I can then sort of download that DWG file to review it before I approve it. Alternatively, again, what lots of our customers tend to do is use the online markup tool. So again, it's a very powerful feature that we've got within the system, but just putting it into context, I don't have sort of thousands of pounds worth of AutoCAD on my laptop here, but through the online viewer within BT, I can view this drawing file, and I can also provide my comments and markups on top of it. So if I just do a very quick kind of comments, and I'm sure lots of people on the call will have used this type of technology before, but again, sort of going back a few years, these are the types of things which we might have seen people printing these drawings out, scribbling on top of it, and then putting it back into the post and waiting sort of 5 or 10 or even longer to get responses back. So again, a very inefficient process, which can kind of move from sort of days or weeks into sort of number of minutes or hours, depending on how much detail we need to go into. But you can start to get the understanding and the idea of the principle behind this. in terms of these very typical workflows and approval process that we see on a day-to-day basis. And again, just making a very easy software application, taking a lot of the strain off that type of workflow. So I'm just going to save that markup, gives it an automatic name for me. I'm just going to close that down and it should refresh. So I'm just going to append that back to my response. So I'm going to give this an S3 approved for review and comment. I'm just going to say that is accepted. C markup file. So again, you can start to refer and append these markup files back to my responses just to make it a bit more contextual to the architect when I do approve that. So down at the bottom here, whilst we've kind of done that on one drawing and on a one-to-one basis, what we typically see is that on a one-to-many basis. So again, taking the strain off lots of manual processes in terms of trying to aggregate and collate sort of 10 different responses from 10 different people. If you're doing that over email or over Dropbox or trying to keep things kind of logged in Excel trackers, that's a very labor-intensive process, and it's prone to risk, it's prone to error. So again, we're taking a lot of that strain off that process and putting it into an online platform. Okay, so I'm just going to dive back up to the top of the project and just sort of conscious of time. So what I'll probably just end on is just giving you a bit of an idea in terms of our sort of 3D capabilities. So whilst we've kind of given an example of that kind of drawing file and 2D workflow, the same kind of principles applied to our 3D capability. So again, we've got a BIMWorks module, which again opens up the ability to view and federate and clash detect 3D models. So these are based on sort of the IFC file format. So again, those of you that are familiar with this, again, you'll have an appreciation. But for those of you that aren't, you typically kind of do your design authoring in a tool like Revit or ArchiCAD or whatever it might be, and export that design into an IFC file type, and then you upload the IFC file into BC. And again, I don't have thousands of pounds worth of Revit on my laptop here, but I'm able to get an appreciation of the model, which has been designed and developed by 3 different disciplines.
So what we're looking at here is a federated model. So you would have noticed that I selected 3 different IFC files. So one's coming from the structural team, one's coming from the architects, and one's coming from the MEP. So what a lot of our clients are starting to get benefits from is not only using this as a really simple visualization tool, but we're also able to start interacting and interrogating the underlying data as well. So coming back to that upload process of those IFC files, what we do is we strip out the geometry and make it available just through a web browser, but we also strip out the underlying data as well and put it into a database. So you can see all of the data down the left-hand side. And again, what a lot of our clients are starting to do is start to take advantage of that by having the ability to start enriching this model and the objects contained within it with information which might be sitting on the CDE or might be links to external systems or other kind of websites that we might be working with. So for example, I can find all of my windows which are located on level 2 of the building. So again, a fairly kind of typical kind of workflow here is that again, en masse, I might need to associate or tag all of these windows with some information to give it some more context. So again, you would have noticed just off my drop down here, I can either associate or tag these window objects with documentation sitting on the common data environment. Alternatively, I can select associate web links, and again, what we see in a fairly kind of typical example here is links to manufacturers' websites, might be links to internal contacts databases. So, for example, if we find a crack in the window when we're out on site, we can interrogate the model, click on one of the window objects, and it can very quickly pull us into who do we need to contact, are these windows still under warranty. So again, we're starting to build up an information-rich representation of what the physical asset is ultimately going to be. The other kind of key feature, just to call out, is our ability to run some clash detection. So again, because we've selected three different model files here, again, your mind naturally starts to think around where the potential problems might be in terms of knitting those three different disciplined models together. So I've selected the three models that I want to run the clash detection against. I'm going to say show me cross-model clashes and run that very, very quickly, and you can see it finds 2.5 or just over 2,500 clashes within the model, and I can select one of these just to understand a bit more detail around what exactly that particular clash is happening. So one of the key kind of principles or mandates to our development team when we're working on this is not only does this have to be accessible and available just through a web browser, so no kind of local plugins or controls going on here, purely through a web browser, but it also has to be dead simple to the end user. So again, people need to be able to kind of pick up and run with this type of capability with minimal, if any, training whatsoever. And again, there's lots of kind of heavyweight sort of clash detection tools out there in the industry, the likes of Celebri and Navisworks. But again, this is all about kind of democratizing that capability to a wider user base, so you can start to find these types of problems on a project or across a multidisciplinary design early on in the process. Because again, the earlier you find these types of clashes and issues, the better that the project's going to be. So
I think I'm probably going to wrap up at that point. Appreciate that was a bit of a whistle-stop tour of the software, but hopefully it gives you a bit of a feel for, like I said, the look and feel, the types of workflows that we see on a regular basis, and the types of principles and disciplines that we like to encourage when we're starting off with the customer on day one.